questions or thoughts, Tom?
Well, it looks like it's laid out pretty well. I kind of like the layout of it. Yeah. So it's interesting. I was sitting here listening to you talking when you were talking about when you're reading out of the book. And I was kind of flashing back to a class that I do every month for the company I work for. And it's really kind of talking to real estate owners, brokers, about how to set their companies up and how to run them. And it was two things popped out from your conversation. One was is that most of these people are entrepreneurs, but yet they still didn't grasp the idea of managing a business. And two is that all I'm doing is, as you said, I'm teaching based on what I've learned through what I've done. And yet these folks look at it like, you've got some kind of doctorate degree in how to set this stuff up. And it's always been interesting to me. All people need to do is to think back to their life and the different things that they've done and what have they learned out of each of those situations. And then how do I apply that to anything else?
I don't think, Tom, that you realize how hard that is for people.
Well, maybe maybe the issue is, and I don't know, you talk about buddies in here, and I don't know what the art thing is yet. I wanted to ask you about that, but maybe the issue is nobody's asking them, tell me about some of these things you've learned, and how did you apply them? What value would that have currently?
Right. It's like they haven't learned how to be, students. They haven't learned how to be
students of themselves.
Right, but they're not. People aren't. They're zombies. I mean, not to be harsh.
Well, that's a good descriptive word for it, right?
I mean, this is what I figured out. I figured out why zombie movies. Personally, I don't go for them at all, but I figured out why zombies are so popular. I mean, not to be harsh or anything, but I think it's that people like to watch zombie movies because it makes them feel better. I mean,
well, it's interesting. I've never. I was talking to a friend of mine about that series, it's gone on forever. And I said, I don't know, it's never been that interesting to me. And he goes, that's because you're looking at it as an individual that's saying, what if these zombie killers were coming after you? I said, well, that's what the movie, the series is about. He says, no, it's not. It's about life and how do you interact with people that you've never met before, but who were brought together because of some, in this case, the zombies are after you. And I looked at him and said, are you crazy? He goes, no. He said, watch it. I haven't yet, but I think I'm going to at least watch a couple of them to see. I don't get it.
So I don't know how many years ago, Tom, it was. When did you start where you're working consulting now? How many years has that been?
When I worked for this company?
Yeah.
6 years, going on 7 years.
So I don't know if you remember having a conversation with me where you're like, Mark, I'm ashamed to be in this industry. Like, people don't have integrity. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, okay. And you're like, I had this appointment in Texas to meet with, real estate. And I flew to Texas. I'm pretty sure it was Texas. Maybe I have the state wrong. But I flew to Texas.
I'm pretty sure. Right.
So I flew to Texas, and they never showed up. They just blew off the appointment, and they knew I was flying in. Like, how do you not show up for an appointment when somebody flies in to meet with you? How do you just blow that off? So this was written over, Christmas, dimensional integrity. And it's an amazing white paper. So I've written over 70 white papers now. And so there's...
Can you send me this one?
I can. And so it's like this here, and it talks about how different personalities have different views of integrity. Like if I'm a minute late, I think I lack integrity. And so each of the 4 different personalities actually view integrity in a different way. And then it goes through, and so what does integrity mean to you? And what is your biggest challenge? So what people's biggest challenge is, I believe after writing this white paper, and it's collaborative, it's not just me, but I'm kind of leading it up. So I wonder if everyone's biggest challenge is a lack of integrity that they have somewhere in their life that they have not addressed. I don't know yet, but I wonder. Or maybe it's a lack of integrity of somebody around them that hasn't been addressed.
I would venture it's the first one primarily. I think it's probably a combination of both, but I think the first one has to be resolved before the second one can.
Agreed. And then it goes into the mobile app, and then it goes into, the analytic and the amiable. So the analytic focuses in on the past. The expressive focuses in the moment. The amiable is the short term, and the driver is the long term. So the ideal is learn from the past, learn from past mistakes, and have fond memories of the past. We love the present, living in the moment with clarity for the future. So the short term motivates us to learn from the past, live in the moment, and with hope for the future. And then it goes into the different frequencies, different personalities, and then it talks about, leverage the course. So when we have integrity, then we have greater leverage. And so, the first question is, what other white papers would you recommend? So there's some there. There's a whole library. And then the next is this all free, or when will I be sold something? So it addresses that, because people are inherently selfish and project onto other people what's in their own hearts. So when we're thinking something is true with other people, it's a great revealing of our own heart. It's really cool. And then this is actually something like after 10 years, like Alan's and Nancy were of Tanglewood Conservatories. So they were, clients of Synergy for 10 years and friends, but over the phone we never met them in person for 10 years. And Alan said, I'm going to go out to Chicago and meet Mark for the first time after 10 years. And so he met me at Mastermind Seminars. Unbelievable event. If you can go to Mastermind Seminars, start Coffee Connection, so unbelievable. Anyways, so we were at breakfast before the event, and he said to me, Mark, I've been looking at you wrong for all these 10 years. And I said, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And so I don't know, we just talked, and I still couldn't figure out. So when he got back home to Maryland, I said, we were in the Chicago area. And so I said, Alan, would you mind sending me something, because I'm still not getting what you mean? And this is what he wrote. He said, it's kind of been modified, enhanced a little bit. And so it's because it's not about Mark Boersma. But he said, for a long time I saw, or thought I saw, founders of Life Masteries Institute and Legacy Partners as business owners trying to make a living for their families just like the rest of us are. I thought their primary goal was the same as most people in the world, to make money so they could support themselves and retire at some point to enjoy the fruits of their labor. Then I started to see that was just a reflection of where I myself was at. I started to see that as being only a superficial exterior. The deeper reality was and is something that I'm completely unfamiliar with, and struggle still sometimes to accept, that the founders are coming from a much different place, a place that is very different than the rest of us. I do not have much access to this place. It's a place with a different conception of self, where real service to mankind is a driving force, not concerns of my own lifestyle. Hard to even imagine what this would mean to me if I were to attempt to live so differently. Much has to be done first, though, before I can even reach the dimension where this could be a reality, not just an imagination. See, it's not really about making more money, doubling your income, or being more successful. I started to catch a glimpse of something much, much deeper, like peering into another dimension for moments. That is what we are really being led to. And when he wrote this about me, I read it, and I'm like, well, duh. Like, it took you 10 years to figure that out, Alan? Like, hello? How could anybody work with me for any amount of time and not know that's what it's about? And then it dawned on me that my own parents didn't realize this. And my 3 brothers and my 2 sisters don't realize it. My wife and kids realize it, but sometimes they're not so happy with it.
Yeah, but as I think back on it, I mean, it was almost from day one.
Right.
That I think I understood what you were about.
Right.
So it's interesting that it took Alan that long. And now I think back on it, it's been a long time since the 3 of us or that group was together on the phone. But I remember that there were some times he was having some hard times with some of the things we were talking about.
Right.
And maybe this little thing that he wrote you explains that process.
Right. That's exactly.
He was trying to implement the things we were talking about to earn money.
See, and this is where the big change came, Tom, and I don't remember if it was before this or after this. I'm not sure. I think it was after this. It was this was a changing point, and then a year or 2 after that, he went ahead and said to me, he said, Mark, how do I get a grasp of the natural laws like you do? And I'm like, just go through those 6-minute videos that Tom and I put together. Go through them every day. And I don't know, there's like 70 of them. And then manage up and out every day, watch 6 minutes of it. And then at the end of each video, then tell me what you learned, what action you're going to take from what you learned, and what you need to learn next. And he did that. And he went through all 70 of them like a machine. And then a little while later, I don't know, something was said, and then Matt Maple went ahead and took on the challenge, and now Matt's thinking differently. And then Matt recommended that Nancy, Alan's wife, go through it, and now she's thinking differently. And then Matt King, who's a builder out of Indiana, he's going through it. And Therese, I think she's going through it. There's a whole bunch of people that are starting to go through it. And so I thought, I can't really tell people why it's so effective because it wouldn't sound good, because I'm socially autistic. It's like, why is it working so well? And my social autism would say, oh, it's simple. It's brainwashing people. But then I thought, it's actually not brainwashing. It's actually detoxing the brain.
Yeah. See, I look at brainwashing as a little bit different than most people.
Right, like they're being brainwashed.
You have to brainwash, meaning clean the brain. clean the brain out, and then feed it back in some good stuff.
Right, that's what the military does in boot camp.
Yeah.
It breaks them down. So you know, you're not as smart as you think, you're not as strong as you think, you're not as bright as you think. You know, do what we tell you to do, when we tell you to do, how we tell you to do it, and do it with a great attitude. And if you do that, your chances when you go into war are going to
survive.
you're going to have a much better chance. If you don't listen to us, you and other people around you are going to more likely die.
Right.
And so that you know, that's really cool. And then another, do the 4 chemicals in the brain affect our personality and our frequency and how we view integrity? So Paul and I have known each other for maybe 30 years, long time. And he's in the mortgage industry, been in the mortgage industry, I think, his whole life. And he's working with a doctor doing an intern, I think, out of Northwestern Medical in Chicago. And they say the brain, based on studies, they say the brain cannot go ahead and differentiate between physical pain and emotional or mental pain.
I just heard something about that the other day. Was it on TV or something? I heard that they were doing some studies that showed people who say they have chronic pain. That I can't remember where I heard it, because I remember I just kind of briefly heard it and went on.
So Paul had an injury, athletic, I think, tore something, did something. And this guy, he's in a group with him. He asked me, he said, Mark, would you be interested in joining the advisory board? I'm like, sure. And so he goes ahead and said that he was having a pain, and this doctor said, it's not from your injury, Paul. It's from emotional pain, and it's showing up in another place. And so Paul confesses that he didn't believe him, so he went into a specialist. And the specialist went ahead and examined him, did the x-rays, and went through everything, and said, Paul, you do have an injury. You have a torn ligament or whatever it is. You do have that. But the pain that you're having in the lower left side is not connected to your physical injury. We don't know why you're having pain in that area, but it shouldn't be in that area. And so that's where the mobile app, I believe, is going to, help heal, not help people, but heal people from depression, from being sexually molested, as little girls. It's going to heal addictions, because it's going to get into the brain and how people think based on their personality. So here's a great question. Is there some test that could help me test what dimension of integrity I have? So here's a 12-question test. So would not murder somebody without cause? So 1 to 10. So believe it or not, there's some people that will do that, right? So that's so. Then the second one is would not murder somebody without a strong case. Like you and I, when we were working on raising awareness and everything for stopping child trafficking. So if we saw somebody, a man, sexually assaulting a little girl, okay, that's cause. Boom, they're done. Number 3 is would not hate someone. Number 4 is would not steal out of selfishness. Number 5 is would not steal for need. Number 6, would not desire, covet, or want what other people have. Number 7, would do what I say I will do if it's easy to do and good for me. Number 8, will do what I say I will do if it's hard to do. Number 9, will do what I say even when I believe it will bring harm to me. Number 10 is will do the right thing even if I didn't say I would. Number 11 is show up generally on time or close to being on time. Number 12 is won't be even 1 minute late due to integrity.
So you score these, then what?
Oh, as soon as somebody scores it, then we'll come up with an answer key. So then we'll rate it and say, if you scored, this score, then, this is the level of integrity that you are. So there's actually a whole bunch of them. This is a short one. This is the first stab at it. The thing that created the tipping point is I go to Lifetime Fitness. And they've had so I play basketball 2 times a week. And after, I'm playing basketball, I'm exhausted. I'm 54 years old. It's like, my gracious. And so I want to go and drink, they have a drinking fountain with cold water. So it's important to me. And then it went out. And then I asked them, I said, hey, the drinking fountain went out. And they said, yeah, I'm going to fix it. and they didn't. Like, they didn't fix it. They didn't do what they say they were going to do. So crazy me, people say, what's socially autistic? I think people are going to be honest with me. Like, that's socially autistic, right? I mean, I'm 54 years old. You'd think by now I'd realize no, people aren't going to be, honest. But I don't. I think everybody's honest with me. If somebody's dishonest with me, then I think, because I'm socially autistic, that they lack integrity and they want to grow. So I'm going to just tell them, hey, you're late. Hey, you didn't follow through on what you said you're going to do. Hey, this or that or whatever. You lack integrity. And I still struggle because I think when I tell somebody that they're going to give me a hug. Like, they're going to be like, oh, my gracious, Mark, thanks so much for being honest with me. Like, I really appreciate that. Like Ken MacArthur, he had me speak at his events all around the country. And, at the second event, he didn't catch it at the first one. Second event that I spoke at, there was a core group of probably 30 people. And he went ahead and he introduced me and said, hey, Mark spoke at the last event. He's going to be speaking at this event, probably Futures event. I just want to set the record straight. He's the devil. I wasn't expecting it. He didn't prep me for it. He didn't go ahead and, he didn't give me any warning. I'm up in front of everybody and he's like, Mark's the devil. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what that means. He says, what I mean by that, okay, is that if you ask Mark his opinion, he's going to share it with you honestly. And so if you don't want his opinion, and you're not going to like his opinion probably, because he's going to see stuff you don't see, so you're going to get really angry with him when he tells you what he thinks. So I just want you to know that if you don't want his opinion, don't ask, because if you ask him, he will tell you you're going to get angry. Don't come to me and whine to me about Mark telling you what he thinks, because I've already warned you. This is who he is. And I thought, man, is he brilliant? What a great way to go ahead and protect himself. So he just warns people beforehand. Lou Costabile, who's on this course, Tori Gum. You and I met Tori, Tom, out at Judson University. That was a fond memory. We learned a lot about higher education, Christian higher education, didn't we? Like that, another story. Anyways, so Tori went ahead and invited me to go to the White Sox game with 2 of his friends, and one of them was Lou Costabile. And so we went there, and Tori.
I know that name.
He was on this call. Oh, he might have connected to you. So he's the one that has the YouTube channel with 45,000 people on the cars.
Oh, okay, I remember that.
So anyways, we go to so Tori warns them both and says, hey, I just want you to understand Mark's a little different than other people. So Mark's going to ask you some, questions, like he just will. And so I just want to warn you. So he gives, both of them heads up and say, this is who Mark is. And so he warned them. So, I thought we had a great conversation and everything. And Lou goes home to his, wife, and he says to his wife, he's like, I just met the most annoying, obnoxious guy. And she laughs, and she's like, okay, I'll bite. Why is he, Mark Boersma? And why is he more, why is he obnoxious? And he explained it to her, and she laughed and she said, Lou, do you know why, you don't like him? Why he's so obnoxious? And he's like, no. And she's like, it's because he's just like you. and then Lou's like, puts his hand to his chin. He goes, huh, I never thought of that. You're right. I like him now. So, like, who thinks like that? Like, Lou is confronted with the truth. He's like, oh, I guess he is just like me. So, anyways, then do you believe a lot of the emotional or mental disorders come from a lack of understanding on frequencies, and the lack of integrity? So the analytic often struggles with despair. So the disorders are pride, disassociation, major depression, bipolar, and I don't even know how to say the last one, dysthymia. The driver is, their core is anger, and their disorders are defiant, poor conduct, disruptive, sexual disorders, oppositional, physical abuse. The expressive is foolishness. Their disorders are narcissism, ADD, ADHD, addictions, explosive drama, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive. And the amiable, theirs is fear, and so their disorders are panic attacks, passive-aggressive stress, post-traumatic, anxiety, and social phobias. So, Tom, how cool would it be to have the mobile app go in and do all the veterans and have them take the test and see if PTSD is more prevalent in amiables than it is in the other three personalities? And what we need to do is we find an amiable that doesn't have PTSD, and we figure out how they think, capture that on video, and then deliver that video to all of the veterans who have PTSD. And each of the four may have PTSD, but they do it for different. But I would bet over 50% of the PTSD are amiable personalities, because what they do is they internalize, and I bet you probably 70% of the soldiers, of the military, of the veterans that have PTSD are analytic or amiable, because disassociation, I just learning about this, man, is this, it's like they actually don't address the fears or the pain. So
So why don't you take, I mean, they're right there in your backyard. Why don't you remember Easter Seals, who was working with some university there, I don't know if it's Chicago or where it was, but they had put together a whole institute where they were looking at returning vets with, brain damage or PTSD, whatever it may be. Why don't you go talk to them about this?
So I'm going to
do the study.
We're going to do this offline. I'm going to share it with Tom offline. So we'll jump back to this. And then what is the best way to deal with companies who lack integrity and or their employees do as well? So this is the Lifetime Fitness, because I shared it with a group of people, and so it got on one of the questions. And so the manager that mocked me, I said, it's been 6 months since you guys said you're going to fix it. I said, you know what you ought to do? Is you ought to go ahead and have, me not pay dues until you get it fixed. And he looked at me and he laughed and he says, you're serious? I'm like, yes. He's like, so you don't want to pay any dues because the drinking fountain's not working? I'm like, no, it's because you lack integrity. And he looked at me and he's like, that's an interesting way to think about it. I'm like, what are you thinking? Do you not understand? I'm an international speaker and author. Do you not understand I can bring leverage down on you? So I used the leverage course and what I'm learning, and so I sent him and his manager this, and I said, yeah, And this goes out to, well, I didn't send it. Life Mastery sent it to them because they're hearing rumors about Lifetime Fitness. And so I'm thinking the owner of the company, he's going to eventually get this. And if they don't address this, I'm thinking that the owner of the company is not going to be a happy camper. So I was thinking, they should just give me, until they get it fixed. They said 2 weeks or a month, so they're going to pay. But to go ahead and get this thing cleaned up, they're going to give me a year of free membership. Like, that's leverage. It's like,
Yeah.
do the right thing, for crying out loud. Okay. How do I ask this question? Let me try this. When groups of people, let's say, for example, say Christians or any type of charity, community-based organization get together, do groups of people have a harder time with integrity than when somebody is alone or individually and or an ethnic group? So, being raised Baptist my whole life, very conservative Christian, I get kicked out of one church, then another church kind of asked me to leave. Tom, I got kicked out of a church before I even stepped in the door the first time. Like, I have this leather jacket, and I'm thinking I'm going to start putting like an Air Force pilot on shoot downs. I'm going to put
the decals
on it for the churches. And then I go into a church, and they're going to be like, "What's that? What's those decals?" I'm like, "Those are for all the churches that I get kicked out of." I mean, the hypocrisy, and again, I come from, and I'm still a Christian. I still go to church. I still believe the things but the hypocrisy in Christianity is just the people and the arrogance. It's just
unbelievable, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. Oh, and there you are, Tom. And so you're listed here as a grand wizard.
All I need to do is get the powers.
Well, you have them. See, it took me 15 years in Synergy, Tom, where one day after 15 years, so this is before I met you, so it would have been probably 5 years before I met you, that one day, I don't know when, but somehow one day I woke up and I said, "Mark, you're amazing. You are so unusual." So I'd have been probably 35. And I'm like, "You are so abnormal. You are so unusual." And it wasn't until, like you said, Tom, you can't give something away until you understand you have it, or until you have it. So you have all of these powers. Like, you're amazing. Like, it's just what you need, Tom, is a distribution channel. And that's what the mobile app will do. See, the mobile app will be your distribution channel. And then Jen, she's a wizard us, and then Alan, he's a wizard. And then Emily, like, I think she's maybe 30, single mom, 2 boys. And she asks the most crazy questions, Tom, that, like, it reminds me of Tim when he was asking.
I was on a couple times with her.
Right. So she's like, I say, that might, I might believe in reincarnation in talking to her, because she's way too young to ask the question. Her insight into things is like they would say she's an old soul. Like, it's like she's crazy. So she's what's called a wit, which is a wizardess in training. See, every human being is a wizard or a wizardess, but they don't know it. And if they don't know it, well, then they can't use all their powers. And then there's, then it talks about, like medical doctors and engineers, and then Christians and other religious groups, and then CPAs. And then question 8 is, how can someone in a group with the accepted level of integrity break free from it? So it's really, that just came in today, I think. And then Lee from Reno, and I know that you're looking at recovering, Tom. So I'm not going to be at Reno for the event, but Jonathan is.
And when is that?
It's, I think, the third week of January. So it's about 3 weeks away, 3 or 4 weeks away. And so, Alan and Nancy, I think they're going to be there. Jonathan's going to be there. Peter's planning on being there. Like, that is going to be, they're targeting 100 people. They've had more registrations than any other group ever. Like, that event would be, like, it's crazy. It's like I am so devastated by not going to that event.
And what exactly are they going to do?
Well, it's mastermind seminars, and so it's teaching the DNA for people, business, and life in 10 minutes each of them. So in 10 minutes, it's going to teach somebody DNA for people. In 10 minutes, DNA for business, the 530 grid. In 10 minutes, the DNA for life. It's unbelievable. So it's going into its 6th year now. And Lee went ahead and sent me this. She said, I read this, and she said, Mark, I thought of you. And I'd never heard this quote before. Simplicity is hard to build, easy to use, and hard to charge for. Complexity is easy to build, hard to use, and easy to charge for.
How true. People don't look at what they get out of it. They look at the volume of stuff versus the price they pay.
Right. So again, I don't know if there's any way. I mean, Lee went ahead and offered, like she talked. She was talking to me. She says, Mark, she says, like it's, I don't know, like a 7-hour drive or something. She said, Tom could get an Uber to drive him, or I could go up and pick him up and bring him back. I mean, like, seriously, like, so, like in Cincinnati, when we did the event there, I asked if I should go ahead and be there, and Alan said that I should not be there. So I didn't go. And I learned more money, or I learned more from that event and earned more money from that event than everybody else combined. And I wasn't there.
Wow.
And so it's like when Michael Jordan doesn't play, the other players all like team up. Like they all, like people rely on the lead person.
Sure.
And so by me not being there, it forces other people to step up. And so if there's any way you could be there, Tom, like I believe you have this magical power, this magical ability. Like Pastor James McDonald, he's all over the world. He has 7 campuses, 13,000 people listen to him. He's a pastor of Walk in the Word and stuff. And what I recognized about him, and anyone else that reaches the masses, and Dave Ramsey also has this ability. And so I don't know that we could get Mike Hartwick to attend, but he's the one that's the best friends with Dave Ramsey. They fly in Dave Ramsey's private jet and everything. So they grew up together. He was the first advertiser on Dave Ramsey's show. But Dave Ramsey has this gift, and so does Pastor McDonald, and so do you, Tom. And what you have the ability to do that I still don't have yet, and maybe I never will, I don't know. I'm working on it really hard, is you have the ability, as Dave Ramsey does and as Pastor James McDonald does, you have the ability when you're speaking to a group of people where the simplest person in the room, can understand you. But the most complicated, the smartest person in the room is challenged by you. And that is a gift that you have that I do not. I think whenever I'm in the room, like, the only ones that understand me is somebody like you, or maybe Dave Ramsey, or maybe Pastor James. Like, people come out of the room and they're scratching their head. They're like, I have no idea what he said. It sounded like it was genius, but I have no idea what he said, and I have no idea what to do with what he said. So I need a translator. I need somebody to take what God's given me and my heart to reach the 7.4 billion people. And I need to go ahead and have other people that can be my mouthpiece, because I don't know, I'm trying. I've been trying really hard for 28 years. But I don't know, I haven't been able to figure it out. And so,
well,
go ahead.
I think sometimes you're tougher on yourself than you need to be.
I don't know. I mean, my thought is that, it's just reality. It's not, like, I'm a wizard, I'm not God. Like, I can't do everything. Right? Like, this is what's so funny is people are like, Mark, you think you're so smart. Like, you think you're always right. I'm like, I'm a wizard. I'm not a God. I don't think I'm always right. I think people just get ticked. And I think people just get ticked because it's like, I am the smartest person in the room.
Well, I think what happens is that what everybody sees from you is the end result. What they don't see is the process you go through to get there. In those processes where some of the failures come up, where things don't quite work out, and you have to readjust and backpedal and move forward. And so when they see all these masterful tools you put together, it tends to give them the idea that, oh my God, he can accomplish anything, which you can, but it's not like you don't, that it just all of a sudden pops into your head. You work through the process, and nobody really sees the process that you work through to get the result.
Except you. Like, you brought me to tears. Like I was weeping on the phone. When you went ahead and said on one of the mastermind calls, and you said, nobody understands the price that Rosanna and Mark's kids have paid. Like, you understood that. So you somehow understand. And we're going to go in closing here. We're going to close this up with one story that just touched my heart to no end. Because I think I've seen Tom tear up like 3, maybe 4 times. And the story about early years of Century 21, when one of the franchise owners was running into rough times, and he was going to have to, go bankrupt or something. Could you share that story, Tom?
Sure. It wasn't a franchisee. The success of Century had been that they sell master franchises, so they
got
the U.S. and broke it up into different sections, and then they would sell out those sections, and then it would be up to that person to take the tools and systems and go sell it to brokerages, and then collectively they build it all up, and then eventually the corporation would buy all those independents back. But the story goes that so you have, at the time there were probably 25, 30, I don't know, maybe even more of these franchisees in there. And you have to remember these people, you know, they mortgaged their homes, they depleted their savings accounts, they did everything because they believed in the process. And so at one of them, they used to have what they called regional directors meetings, and that's where all the owners were together. And one day, the president of the company stood up and said, one of our partners is ready to close down the business. So he took a check, wrote it, put it in a hat, sent that down the row, and it just made its way around the room. Everybody contributed and kept that company alive. So it just it showed, I think, one, it showed the integrity of the system. It showed the belief processes that everybody who had joined in that system, and the collective power that a group of people working together for an outcome that they weren't quite sure of, but had a pretty good idea of what they wanted. When you put all those things together, it becomes one of the greatest success stories ever. An organization starting with virtually nothing and becoming the largest residential real estate company in the whole world.
And how many years ago was that, Tom?
That was in the 70s, mid to the 1970s, 75, somewhere in that line.
So that would have been like 40, 50 years ago?
Yeah, because the company was founded in 72. And so it's been somewhere in that first 5 or 6 years.
So
now the interesting thing, everybody sitting in that around that table when it all grew up, I think the cheapest region that was sold or bought back was worth in excess of $40, $50 million. Not counting the money that made off of it over all that time.
Wow. So it still brings back tears and tremendous emotions, even like 50 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to close that. Kind of reminds me of, a holiday season. It's a day after Christmas. You guys, I hope you go ahead and listen to this, the whole thing. I hope you share it with your 2 art buddies. Make sure your art mentor is also doing it. And in closing, like my wife's favorite movie is It's a Wonderful Life. And I wonder if I ever got in that situation, I wonder, I'm like, have I helped enough people where if I ever got in that situation where that same type of thing, would happen for me? And I honestly don't know. I think because of my social autism, maybe not. Like, I've helped a lot of people, but a lot of times people get ticked at me, and it's like, okay, it's like, sorry. Anyways.
It's interesting. I watched it over the last week or so, and I thought exactly the same thing that you did. And it was like, it would be interesting if you could actually look back at some point, maybe right towards the end or something. But you really don't know. And there's really no way of really knowing. So I guess the sum of it is you have to just keep giving and giving and giving.
Right. Right. So if you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, we say leverage is different, but that's easy to say. Everybody says they're different, they're unique, they're special, it's new and improved, and all of this stuff. They say all of that. It's easy to say. It's another thing hard to do. And I think as you get more involved in the network, not just leverage, like leverage, if this is the first thing that you're part of, Life Masteries Institute and Legacy Partners, this is your first course, like there's so much love that goes into these courses. There's so much passion. There's so much thought. There's so much effort. And it's not just like our people coming out mentally stimulated and saying, wow, that was an amazing course, but are you going to make money? Are you going to have, like, some of the things I'm going through right now in my life? I mean, it's probably the hardest time I've ever had in my life ever. And the leverage course is giving me hope. It's helping me to think differently and say, okay, Mark, you've been through some pretty tough things in the past. This is tougher, but you'll make it through it. And so the things in the course, like, it's not just to make money. Like, money's going to come and go. It is what it is. But it's a legacy, too. And leverage, I think, gives us the opportunity to leave a legacy. So we're going to close out on that. Tom and I are going to talk for a couple minutes. Too bad you weren't on for the live one. Like, you get a lot from the rebroadcast, but the live ones are really cool. Like, there are special things. Anyways, everyone have a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year. God bless. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own.